Welcome to everybody. We are discussing Vishnu iconography and the general survey of the Vaishnavism. Yesterday, we have taken a brief review of how the first phase of Vishnu iconography can be seen. The phase that can be broadly placed in between 2nd century BCE until to the downfall of the Kushanas, that is around 3rd century CE. While taking up this review of the first phase, what kind of the material is noticed, how the diversity of the Vishnu imagery is seen, and followed by the diversity of the material, we did have tried to take review of the general regional development of the Vaishnavism. So, in which broadly we have tried to find out there are 8 zones or the 8 regions where the early evidence of the Vaishnava tradition can be noticed. The very first region in which maybe the Vaishnavism have took the initial stage, that was the region of Mathura, especially in the visual tradition. Then Gandhar, Rajasthan, followed by Rajasthan, Malwa, especially the western Malwa, uh, then the northern Deccan, southern Deccan, South India, and the eastern India. These are some areas where the early remains of the Vaishnavism is reported. That is in form of the coins, inscriptions, and few of the images. Now today we will try to see that how the second phase in the Vaishnava iconography or the Vaishnavism is significant. Tentatively, this phase can be placed in between 4th century CE until to the 6th century CE. 4th century CE to the 6th century CE. Comparatively, this phase is very short, but the most important transformation changes are can be witnessed in these 2 centuries. Now, this period is generally remembered or known for the political expansion of the Guptas. The Guptas came into the power, and in course of the development of the history, the Guptas were the first ruler who did uphold the Vaishnavism as their family faith, and May was the first royal family who did have supported the Vaishnavism. Now, this phenomena is interesting in terms of the changing scenario or the changing religious landscape of Indian subcontinent. In that case, the material that is left by the Guptas or the material that is seen during the Gupta period concerned to the Vaishnava tradition is most fascinating part for the understanding of Vaishnavism. This phase can be remembered for the certain standardization of the Vishnu iconography. This was the period where the proliferation of the Bhagavat Sampradaya can be seen. Now, the formation of the Bhagavata or the Bhagavata cult is the new transformation that was took place during the Guptas. The traces of the Bhagavatas are there before the Gupta period also. There is no problem about that. But in a way, the Guptas had took the title as the Parama Bhagavata, and had tried to popularize the principle of the Bhagavat Vaishnavism, and also had tried to popularize the other Vaishnavite symbols such as Kaunch, Chakra, Garud or Garuda Dhwaja. Garuda Dhwaja me was the emblem of the Guptas. Several scholars have discussed so many issues in this context, especially why the Guptas have failed. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Now you are.
There was some sudden interruption or some error was there. Okay. Um, Scholars have discussed this issue that what was the reason due to that the Guptas had patronized the Vaishnavism, what quality of the Vaishnava tradition does have during that period, and the other concerning factors through which the Vaishnavism got the popular status among the society, and in that background, Guptas are seen standing very prominently. It was the same time when the several temples were started to get construct, especially in the Gupta domain and in other areas of the feudatories of the Guptas. Now, this is a kind of beginning of Vaishnavite landscape or the Vaishnavite sacred center in the core region of the Guptas. These phenomena always need to observe in context of the how uh, the Shaivite faith or the Shaivite tradition was spreading in the Indian subcontinent, and parallel to the Shaivite faith, the Vaishnavism came very prominently with their own distinct ideas, visuals, and some influential divine characters. Vishnu definitely was the main character, but it was the same time the other forms of the Vaishnavism were started to get introduced into the visuals. Now, before the Gupta period or before the 4th century CE, uh, there is some kind of diversity in terms of the depiction of the various Vaishnavite imageries. There is no as such uniformity in those depictions. That's why we called it as a very formative phase where uh, the ideas were taking place. But in case of the Guptas, when we come around the period of the Chandragupta II, the things were changed. And the best classic example of this transformation can be witnessed at Udaygiri cave complex in Madhya Pradesh. Udaigiri is a place near Sanchi, and it is very close to the present town Vidisha, and it has a very extensive cave complex that accommodates the Jain faith in few of the caves, and against to the Jain caves, the most of the caves are assigned to the Vaishnavite tradition. It was the main center of the Vaishnavite activity during the Gupta period, and the emergence of the Udaygiri as the prominent sacred center during the Gupta period around 4th century CE or 5th century CE was not an accidental phenomenon. Okay, it has its own background, and the Guptas uh, may was the responsible dynasty who did have patronized all these excavations and had established the very organized nature of the Vaishnavism. Okay? So here in this period, the Vishnu's few of the incarnation got the immense popularity. The choice of the selection of the image also is a part of the observation, such as during the Gupta period, the Vishnu's incarnation Varaha noticed at several location places, especially the Bhu Varaha, where Varaha is lifting the earth goddess over his shoulder, and he is something who looks very colossal, and the earth goddess looks very small, and how the Varaha is the savior of the goddess has tried to portray through this imagery. Now, the symbolism behind the selection of the image, also another factor through which the Vaishnava iconography of the Gupta period can be understood properly. Okay? The why the Varaha was selected and why at so many locations the images of the Varaha was erected. Answer has tried to explain by the scholar based on to the meaning of the visuals, and also has tried to explain based on to the contemporary inscriptions. Okay? Along with the few of the incarnations of the Vishnu, it was the same time when narrations of the Krishna Leela is found into the visual tradition. It also found alongside of the depiction of the Ramayana. It was the same time when uh, the selected episode of the Ramayana is found a part of the narrations, and these stories were started to get utilized for the exterior decoration of the temple. Some of the forms of the Vishnu were also introduced during this period, especially uh, the Vaikuntha Vishnu, the concept of the Vaikuntha Vishnu, the very significant form of the Vishnu, where Vishnu's cosmic appearance has tried to represent with the multiple heads, and even it has tried to represent the Vaishnavite principles. That will be a part of our further discussion. So this is the a second phase, and second phase also can be understood based on that how in this phase not only the selected locations where the Vaishnavite evidence are found, but in this phase it was found everywhere. So it is the same period where not only Guptas but other dynasties also found supporting the Vaishnavite tradition, such as in the Deccan, Vakatakas, okay, Kadambas of Banvasi, Tripitakas of Konkan, Holikaras of Malwa region, and Maitrakas of Gujarat. These are some dynasties who are seen were patron of the this second phase of the Vaishnava tradition. And it was the same time when the Chalukyas of the Badami around the beginning of 6th century CE, the Chalukyas of Badami took the power of the Deccan region, and in their respective area, Vaishnavism is found important. So this is the general development of the second phase. And the third phase starts onward 6th century CE. After 6th century CE, the Vaishnavite iconography was found in various types and classification. It has expanded its own pantheon. It was the same time the Vaishnavism became a prominent sect. It also has went through the other several changes. It was not just only remained as a Bhagavat Vaishnavism, but the offshoots of the Bhagavat Vaishnavism also were developed. And not only this, it was the same time where the Vaishnav Tantra formed an integral part of the Vaishnavite tradition. So this also is the new factor which can be traced in the second phase, but its grand proliferation and the exhibition in the visual culture is found onward 6th century CE. So there is a special forms of the Vishnu, there are special icons of the Vishnu and associate deities that can be explained and understood based on to the Vaishnav Tantras or the Vaishnav Tantric tradition. It was the same time where the regional variation of the Vishnu iconography can be seen. So much diversity within the Vaishnavite iconography onwards 6th century can be noticed. Okay, so many things were formed in this period, and the most important is that there are some selected incarnation of the Vishnu, which might was the part of the popular faith in these centuries. So the Varaha, Yagyavaraha, Nrsimha, Vaman, these are some selected avatars of the Vishnu. Those are found everywhere. It was the same time in which the popularity of the Krishna and the Krishna's various deeds were also found to be an integral part of the Vaishnavite iconography. It seems that the narratives of the Krishna was the important factor for the popularity of the Vaishnavism in this century, especially during the early medieval period. So this also is an extensive topic in which some scholar has tried to go into the detail, and there are some scholars who are working to understand the phenomena of the Krishna in the Vaishnavite tradition and how it was important for the development of the Vaishnavism. Vaishnavism also was indulged into the contemporary polity and the political activities. So these factor also we need to understand based on to the how the contemporary Shaivism was close to the political activity and the political decisions. So this relation of the Shaivism and Vaishnavism also is an important part of the studies in iconography. So what information we could receive through the inscription and the literature, they do not talk about the what kind of the rivalry was in between the Shaiva and Vaishnava tradition. So the material remains through which we can understand how the visible interaction was there, what kind of the ideas were adopted by the Vaishnavite from the Shaivite or from the Vaishnavite, the Shaivite had adopted the few things. So this interaction through the visuals also need to be seen through the iconography. So iconography is the one part through which so many aspects can be covered. The hierarchy, hegemony, subjugation, these factors also can be noticed through the iconographic depiction of the Vishnu. And especially in this third phase, it is a more complex when we come across to the specific Vaishnavite temple and the Vishnu iconography. Okay? So based on to the evidence, based on to the iconographic depiction, we could better understand that how uh, this sect was evolved and this sect was developed. Okay? So this is very general background of the Vaishnavism. Now we will move to the some basic information of the deity Vishnu and how deity Vishnu is found mentioned into the early literary tradition. Now, in case of the Rigveda, the Vishnu is always mentioned as the subordinate of the Indra. Okay? Vishnu always mentioned as the subordinate of the Indra, so hence he is referred as a Upendra. Upendra is the epithet of the Vishnu found mentioned in the Rigveda. Upendra. Okay. Then there are some pair of the gods mentioned in the early literary tradition, especially in Rigveda, such as Indra Vishnu. So here also the Vishnu comes in the second position and founds its association with the Indra. Okay, so these are some early references, and then there are some other epithets also can be noticed in the early Rigvedic verses, such as Urugaya and the Urukrama. Urugaya and the Urukrama. Urugaya and Urukrama, these are the two epithets through which maybe some of the forms of the Vishnu was evolved. For example, this epithet of the Urukrama is associated with the Trivikrama. The roots of the Trivikrama form of the Vishnu uh, has tried to trace from the his epithet that is mentioned in Rigveda as a Urukrama. The early seeds of the Vamana story or the Trivikrama story may also can be traced from the Rigveda. Okay? And it is believed by the scholar that these are some early symptoms of the deity Vishnu, which may was the reason through which Pauranic Vishnu was formed, or the Pauranic personality of the Vishnu may was developed. Another opinion is that Vishnu is nothing but a transformation of the character of Indra. So whatever quality of the Indra was holding in the Rigvedic literature may was later continued by the Vishnu. It was not a simple transformation, or it was not a simple process in which Indra have submerged into the deity Vishnu. The reason may can be traced into the changing social practices, and also it can be traced into the changing nature of the contemporary political settings. So these two factors may was responsible. Due to that, maybe the Indra's personality was merged, assimilated into the Vishnu's personality. But it was not as such useful for the Vishnu, since the nature of the Indra that is discussed in the Rigvedic literature may have been started to take in the negative way in the later period. If you see the contemporary Buddhist and Jain faith, it often noticed that the nature of the Indra is always mentioned as a celestial deity, and he is just there as the subordinate to get support to the all these divine personalities. So hence, not only the Indra or the assimilation of the Indra with the Vishnu, but the other factors also may was responsible. Due to that, Vishnu became a popular deity. But one character of the Indra has supported the divine appearance of the Vishnu, and that character is that the Indra is the king of God. And this character of the Indra as the lord of the god, or as a king of the god, was well adopted by the Vishnu. And that's why it is believed that when there was the question about the political legitimacy based onto the social status, may in that case the royal families have started to show their affinity to the Vishnu. So the Vishnu is the one deity who can legitimize the kingship. So the king may was started to get equate himself with the Vishnu. He is the living king among the his citizens, and his presence can be venerated same as like of the Vishnu. So these types of the ideas may was very supportive to gain a political support to the Vaishnava tradition, and also its public appearance. So these factors we need to see that how the combination of the Indra and Vishnu was continued and has found an important place in the Vaishnava tradition. Based on this companion of the Indra and the Vishnu, another factor that comes along with the Indra is he is the form of the Nara. Now, the idea of the Nara, the Purusha in general, but the connotation of the Nara in Vaishnava tradition is different, especially in Vaishnavite philosophy. But for the sake, we can consider Nara as a Purush. Now, this concept of the Nara is associated with the Indra, and he is an integral companion of the Vishnu. Okay? So Vishnu is in form of the divine being, and Nara is in form of the common person who can receive what Vishnu preaches, what he explains, and he is the first receiver of the ultimate knowledge. So, as per the Vaishnavite belief, it was a Narayana who had offered the mysterious knowledge to the Jnana, to the Nara, and through the Nara, it was spread into the society. So, this is the narration we could see into the Vaishnava tradition. For example, in the Shaivite tradition, Shiva preaches his supreme knowledge to the Parvati, and through Parvati, it spreads in the other sections of the society. Similarly, in Vaishnava tradition, the any discourse starts in between the Nara and Narayan. Now, this idea of the Narayan is very interesting. The first we have tried to understand how Indra is important for the formative nature of the Vishnu, and second phenomena comes, which also may was another reason why Vishnu became an important deity in later period, that phenomena was the phenomena of the Narayana. It's very interesting concept, very interesting idea how it has assimilated into the Vaishnava tradition. That also is a very interesting story to trace through the literary sources and the other available information. The pair of the Naranarayan forms the important principle of the Vaishnavite ideas. Remember this. The principle of the Naranarayan. Like there is a Hara Gauri, there is a Uma Maheshwar. The similar status is there of Naranarayan in the Vaishnavite tradition. Okay? And it does not only remain confined to the concept of the Naranarayan, it transformed as per the nature of the appearance of the Vishnu in the several phases. Okay? Now, it believed that the Nara was incarnated in the form of the Arjun in Mahabharata. He was the mind-born son of the Indra, or it was born due to the grace of the Indra to the Kunti. So this we can see that how uh, the relation of the Naranarayan was continued in the Mahabharata, but this is specifically we need to see in context to the formation of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is the dialogue in between Nara and Narayan. So now Arjun is not just only a character of the Mahabharata, but he is there in the form of the Nara who asks the question to the Narayan, and Narayan answers these questions. Okay? This is we need to trace into the visual tradition, that how this idea uh, has tried to represent into the Vaishnavite iconography. Okay? Now, the origin of the Narayana concept may can be traced from the Rigveda. It is believed that the 10th mandal of the Vishnu was compiled by the sage Narayana. It is argued by the scholar it may or may not having any relation to the Vishnu, but the conceptual relation is there. Okay? Conceptual relation is there. On the basis of the linguistic formation of the word Narayan, it is suggested that the word Narayan perhaps is having the Dravidian origin. The word Narayan may is having a Dravidian origin. It also believed by the scholars of the Vedas that the 10th mandala of the Rigveda perhaps is the later addition. You students may have also came across the discussion when Ganvir sir taken lecture on the Vedic religion, how the Rigveda was formed and how the compilation of the Rigveda can be seen. And in that discourse, most of the scholars are agreed that the 10th mandala of the Rigveda is the compilation of the remaining ruchas or the suktas, and through which this mandala was formed and it was attached to the main corpus of the Rigveda. It is the same mandala where the Purusha Sukta comes. The first time in the Purusha Sukta, the idea of the cosmic Purush, Vaishvik Purush, may have tried to imagine by the Vedic seers. And this cosmic Purush, cosmic man, is believed to be nothing but a Narayan. The Narayan is there who is the cosmic Purush, and from his limbs, the various sections of the society was formed. The Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and the Shudra. The word Narayana, as per the Dravidian roots, means a water. Nara and Ayana. Now, the word Ayana is not an Indo-European word, as per the explanation of the linguistics. Okay? The roots of the word Ayana can be found in the Dravidian language group, and it means a water. Now, water is something which is very interesting for the later formation of the Vishnu and the Vaishnavite iconography. Without water, there is no life. Water is the main substance through which life can be generated. The water has the quality of the reproduction, and there the Narayana resides. And that's why there is an image of the Vishnu reclining in the Kshirosagar. Sagar. He resides into the water and he takes their the slumber. Then he gets awakens by the Maya. And when Vishnu wakes up from his deep slumber meditation, then universe starts to get recreated. Either it is creation or or it is a protection of the supreme knowledge. Now, if you see the Vaishnavite mythology, we would get better understanding that how Vishnu was always a savior, the savior of the earth. In initial stage, it is found that the Vishnu was the savior of the Vedas, and this is this character of the Narayan. The Narayan is one character or the concept through which Vishnu is the one deity who is always found engaged to save the Vedas. Brahma is not the protector of the Vedas. Several occasions, Brahma have lost the Vedas, and every occasion, those Vedas were recovered by the Vishnu. So, this responsibility is not an accidental part of the Vishnu's character, but it is due to his association with the Narayan. So, Narayan concept is important for the formation of the Vaishnavism or the early Vaishnavism. So, the first we have discussed Indra. Indra is the main concept, and the second concept is Narayan. Now, the word Vishnu comes a few occasions in the Rigveda. The word Vishnu comes a very few occasions into the Vishnu. It means that this deity was not as such important in the Vedic period. It was a very minor deity in this phase. Also, there are some other epithets of the Vishnu can be traced into the Vedic ruchas, in which the important epithet is Suparna. Now, in our present context, Suparna is the name of the eagle, Garud. Now, this epithet Suparna may also was another factor through which deity Vishnu was formed. There are some qualities of the Suparna has tried to discuss in the Rigveda itself, and it could have been that in later period, this Suparna form in the form of the Vishnu's mount, and then Vishnu rides over the Garuda. So, possibility is that it was a deity in the Rigveda period, the bird deity, and later it may have assimilated into the Vishnu. Okay? So this we can see in the Vedic literary tradition. And in the Upanishadic period, then we come across with the name Krishna. So there is Indra, there is Narayana, there is Suparna, and then comes the Krishna. Now Krishna is the most important factor, or maybe was one last stroke through which the deity Vishnu may has gained the divine power and gained the mass popularity in Indian subcontinent. Okay. So these traces is significant part through which the early nature of the Vaishnavite faith or the early form of the Vishnu iconography may was developed. Now, this transformation of or changes that we can trace through the Vedic literature and the later Vedic literature and most important Mahabharata, those can be testified based on to the other material evidence. Okay, and in which the most important evidence is the inscriptions. How in the inscription the changes within a Vaishnavite faith or the formation of the Vaishnavism can be seen. Now, in that context, one of the earliest reference of the Vasudev and the Sankarshan is found at the Ghoshundi inscription found in Rajasthan. Ghoshundi inscription datable to the 2nd century BCE. Okay, Ghoshundi inscription. Second inscription is the Nagari inscription. This also datable to the 2nd century BCE or 4th century BCE. Nagari inscription. Third important epigraphic reference, a very valuable epigraphic reference is the base Nagar pillar inscription. It datable to the last decades BCE. Okay. Ghoshundi, Nagari, base Nagar, and fourth important inscription is the Naneghat inscription of Nagan. This is the fourth inscription that also datable to the 2nd century BCE or 1st century BC. Naneghat inscription, and last one is the Ara inscription. Datable to the 1st century BCE or 1st century CE. These are some epigraphic reference. Those based on their paleography placed around 2nd century BCE until to the early decades of the 1st century CE. These inscriptions are immensely valuable to trace the development of the Vaishnavism that we are trying to understand. how the deity Vishnu may was formed and how the Vaishnavite iconography was developed. Through this inscription, we come across that it mentions the name of the deities who might was a part of the contemporary worship. The deities are Vasudev and the Sankarshan. Sankarshan and the Vasudev. So in this inscription, wherever the pair Vasudeva and Sankarshan is referred, at that time the name Sankarshan appears first. Take an example of Nagari inscription, Kosundi inscription, uh, Naneghat inscription. In all these records, the Sankarshan is the first deity because, as per the legend, he was the elder brother of the Vasudev, and his name is referred first, and then name Vasudev comes. In this epigraphic record, nowhere the name Krishna is found mentioned. Okay? Nowhere the Krishna is found mentioned. It means that the Vasudeva may was the popular name and was well known into the contemporary society. This is we can inference based on to the information. Along with the name of Vasudeva and Sankarshan, the mention of the Vishnu heroes also can be seen. Vishnu heroes. Now, as we know, Vasudeva and Sankarshan belongs to the Vrishni clan, and this Vrishni clan was a part of the confederacy of Shurasen, who was controlling the region of the Mathura, and in this Vrishni clan, the other heroic personalities are found mentioned, such as Pradyumna. Third important name comes in the list of the Vrishni heroes is the Pradyumna. Pradyumna, as per the legend, is the son of Krishna or son of Vasudeva. Then comes the Aniruddha. Aniruddha is the grandson of the Krishna as per the legend of Mahabharata. He also is a Vrishni hero. And then comes the Samba. Samba is the son of Krishna, born from the Satyabhama, the wife of Krishna. And the Samba also is found to be a part of the Vrishni heroes. Now, in the concept, it is a Pancha Vrishni hero. In the concept, these are Pancha Vrishni heroes. Some additional characters also can be seen instead of the Samba or the Aniruddha. Those are Akrur. The name of Akrur also comes, and the name of Uddhav also comes. Now, this character Uddhav also important in the Vaishnavite faith. So there is two persons to whom the God have discussed the mysterious knowledge. The one is the Arjun in Mahabharata before the Mahabharata war, and the second part is the person is the Uddhav. So there is the Bhagavad Gita, a dialogue in between Arjun and the Krishna, and there is the Uddhav Gita also. That is the dialogue in between Krishna and the Uddhav. Now, this is part of the development in the Vaishnavite tradition, that how the sect or how the ideas were transformed. But the name Uddhav also found into the list of the five Vrishni heroes. Okay. Now, this concept of the Pancha Vrishni heroes is a, a backbone of the later development of the Vaishnavas. It is this concept of the five Vrishni heroes or the Pancha Vrishni heroes or the Vrishnis. Those may be responsible for the formation of the Bhagavata Vaishnavism, and the traces of this Bhagavata Vaishnavism could have been traced through the idea of the Vrishni heroes. So that will be a part of our further discussion when we will see the icons, especially the images in which these forms of the Vishnu has tried to portray, especially in case of the Vaikuntha Vishnu image. There, the presence of these Pancha Vrishni heroes or the five Vrishni heroes can be seen. But in case of these early epigraphic records, along with the Vasudev and Sankarshan, maybe the worship of the Vrishni heroes also were prevalent in some of the region. Okay? And it may was used to worship due to their personality or due to their heroic deeds. And maybe some sectarian idea was also associated with the Vrishni heroes. And among them, the most important sectarian idea was the Pancha. This is what we have discussed, and we also have discussed at earlier. Now, the Pancharatra is the important sect into the Vaishnavite tradition. It's one of the earliest form of the Vaishnavism, or sectarian form of the Vaishnavism, can be found on the basis of the Pancharatra. And the Pancharatra is often is linked to the idea of five Vrishni heroes. As per the concept, the Pancharatra was the one type of the sacrifice that used to continue around 5 nights, and this sacrifice may was later associated to the Vishnu. Now, if you see these conceptualities, or you may have realized in course of my discussion, the Vishnu is having close proximity to the Vedas. Vishnu also having a close proximity with the protection of the Vedas. So he is the one deity who protects the Vedas, and it's not just only protects the Vedas, but he also protects the sacrifice. And this may was happening due to his relation to the Indra first, and the second his relation to the Narayan. Supreme knowledge is survived, supreme knowledge is continued. It was due to the Vishnu. If there was no Vishnu, then this knowledge may have lost. And in that context, it is believed that the Krishna is the or the Vishnu is the reviver of the Vedic tradition. He is the reviver of the Sanatan Dharma. and this may was the reason due to that Vishnu's appearance is for the establishment of the dharma. Dharma संस्थापनार्थाय संभवामि yuge yuge. This quotation of the Krishna in Mahabharata is the proclamation of his divine character. So whenever there is a problem of the dharma, if there is a increase of the adharma for the establishment of the dharma, Narayan appears. So Narayan is the one who takes the incarnation always and has establishes the dharma. So with the on the basis of this epigraphic record, on the basis of this epigraphic record, we can see that how the Pancharatra sect was formed. Along with the Pancharatra, with this inscription, we also can be traced. There may was the another offshoot of the Pancharatra that is known as the Satvatas. Okay? Satvatas. Okay? And these are some ingredients through which the Bhagavata cult or the Bhagavata Sampradaya was formed. And to, to get the final culmination of the Bhagavat, we need to wait for some time. It is these are the same inscriptions where the name Narayan is found, especially in the inscription found at Nagari. It mentions the Narayana Vatika, and in this Narayana Vatika, there was a temple of Narayan. So the deity Narayan and its relation to the Vasudeva and Sankarshan is found at Nagari. And according to R.G. Bhandarkar and subsequently same verified by the D.R. Bhandarkar, they argues that this may was the time around 2nd century BCE or the 1st century BCE. The cult of Narayan may was assimilated to the cult of Vasudeva and Sankarshan. And for that reason, these inscriptions are important. When we come to the Besnagar pillar inscription, that will be a part of thorough discussion in epigraphy class. But here, in context of the Vaishnavism, what we need to remember about the Besnagar pillar inscription is that it is the first inscription that mentions Vasudev as the god of gods. Vasudev mentions as the god of god, Deva Devas, Vasudev. Deva Devas, Vasudevas. Now the Vasudev is the supreme deity. And for the Vasudev, they had erected the Garuda Dhwaja. It is an inscription which mentions the Vasudeva's epithet as Bhagavat. Bhagavat. Now, due to that, Vishnu calls as a Bhagavan. He is the Bhagavan. And hence he is the founder of the Bhagavad. As per the story of the Bhagavad Puran, it was a sage Shandilya. Sage Shandilya was into the search of the knowledge, supreme knowledge. He did learn the Vedas, but he could not satisfied. He did engage himself in the discussion of the Upanishads, but he could not satisfied. He not realize what supreme knowledge it means. Then he did also learn the 18 Puranas, as we know that all Shastras, but he couldn't satisfied. The ones he was wandering and was roaming to get an ultimate knowledge, he accidentally came across with the sage Narad. This Narad comes there, looking to the intimate nature of the Chandilya and the emotion that he was following at that time. The Narada had asked question to the Chandilya, what you are searching. So Chandilya have told Narada that I am searching about the supreme knowledge. I did learn the Vedas. I did have gone through the various scriptures, but I couldn't satisfy. So tell me that where I can found the supreme knowledge, where I can understand what is the real knowledge. So then Narad advised Chandilya that you could try to recite the name of the Narayan. He is the one God or the one person who is having an ability to realize you the supreme knowledge. So then Chandilya starts to chant the name of the Narayan. And that name Narayana forms the Bij mantra of the Bhagavad Vaishnavism. Like in the Shaivism, there is the Bij mantra Om Namah Shiva. Similarly, in the Vaishnava tradition, there is the Bij mantra that's it's called as a Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So the Vasudev name is the important there, and he starts to cite the name of the Vasudev, and then Vishnu appears. And this is the legend which suggests that how the Bhagavad Vaishnavism was started. This legend had tried to explain by the several scholars what it indicates specially. The one part of the legend suggests that the Vishnu is the supreme than the Vedas. Okay? The one side there is the equation in between the Vedas and the Vishnu. But as per the legend of the Bhagavad Puran, the Vishnu is the supreme than the Vedas. And what knowledge he bears and what supreme knowledge he is having, that is beyond the Vedas. And in that sense, some radical symptoms into the early Bhagavad Vaishnavism can be seen. And based on that, it has tried to explain by these scholars. Especially, there are some different features or the ideas into the Pancharatra Vaishnavism also. And these we can notice in these early fragmentary inscriptions through which this process of the assimilation and amalgamation can be traced. In case of the Naneghat inscription of Naganika or the Satvana period, it starts with the Sankarshan and Vasudev. It means that in these centuries in Deccan region, maybe these deities was known. These deities also was existing in the Satvana domain. In the Ara inscription, the name of Pancha Vrishni heroes is mentioned. And perhaps it was a time or period in which the temple of Vishnu may have started to build. Okay, so these are some important epigraphic records that also indicates the process of assimilation and amalgamation of some characters, divine characters, or the popular characters, and also it suggests how the Vaishnavism was formed. So there is a traces of Satavata Vaishnavism, there is a traces of Pancharatra Vaishnavism, and mm, subsequently we can see the formation of Bhagavata Vaishnavism. And with the formation of the Bhagavata Vaishnavism in these early centuries, the Vaishnavism has got a popular place. And this may was the reason why Vishnu became an important deity. Why Vishnu became always close to the royal personalities. Why everybody wanted to become a Vishnu. Why everybody wanted to install an image of the Vishnu in their region. So this we can trace through the iconography. The images that are survived of the early centuries suggest that the how Vishnu's faces are there. Okay. Now here I am going to stop. If there is any question, you are free to ask. Any question?